I'm doing an astrology love compatibility reading of Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. Bailey's asking, do their charts show marriage, long-lasting relationship? So let me finish the cross-reference of their Venus, and then I'll be able to answer that. So Mars in Sagittarius for her, Venus in Leo for him. That's a trine aspect. So that one is very good. Sexual attraction is very high. That explains why they keep having these babies. Leo and Sagittarius are definitely very attracted to each other. Leo and Sagittarius are both fire signs, are both masculine signs. The tension that is here can be easily, alchemized into sexual carnal energy, which is very helpful for the relationship. The sexual attraction is moderate, but the relationship itself has a lot of harmony, has a lot of cooperation, has a lot of support, has a lot of warmth. It's an excellent aspect for a long-lasting relationship or marriage because you need a combination of friendship and, chemistry, like animalistic chemistry for the relationship to sustain itself long term. Moving on, her Uranus is in Capricorn. That interacts really well with his Venus in Leo because this aspect brings the relationship some stability. Uranus can be very unstable as a placement, but having it as a Capricorn is one of the most stable presentations of that because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So there's some excitement here. Leo and Capricorn tend to also be attracted to each other, although they express that attraction very differently. This aspect is not suitable for long-term relationship in general, but it can be exciting if both partners are willing to work on it. And the reason why it's not suited is because both Leo and Capricorn tend to be fairly stubborn. And what I mean by that is they're very demanding about wanting things to go their way. Leo and Capricorn are fairly inflexible with how they like things to be done. Thank you for my hand heart. I appreciate it. They really like things a certain way, and they're not very open to a lot of variations being made around what they consider to be attractive, what they consider to be appropriate, what they consider to be comfortable. They tend to be very rigid. Capricorn is a cardinal zodiac sign who might as well be a fixed sign because they're so stubborn. Capricorn can be stubborn, okay? And Leo can also be stubborn, although Leo will pretend to be less stubborn than a Capricorn. And it's not that they're trying to be manipulative. It's that because they're a fire sign, they're having fun. Fun is a huge aspect of their personality. So I think sometimes people get carried away with the Leo energy. They're fun, they're humorous, they're outgoing, they're silly. You're laughing till your stomach hurts, and then you forget they're a fixed sign. Like that means when they say this is where the buck stops, that's exactly what they mean. They can go from ha 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 to ha ha no, just like that. And people are always shocked when they get there with Leo because they're like, oh, but we're having a good time. Yes, but I have my limits, and those limits need to be respected. So Leo and Capricorn both share this quality. Good or bad, they can understand each other really well on that front. So a huge part of this is going to be being able to communicate clearly what it is they desire and then respecting each other's boundaries. Now, moving on to the next aspect, her Venus in Aries creates a square with his Neptune in Capricorn. This aspect adds some depression to the relationship because Venus tends to, in Aries especially, tends to live in fantasy land. This is why Aries is the infant of the zodiac, because infants don't have foresight, okay? Infants don't know that people are manipulative. Infants don't know that some people are liars. Infants don't know that sometimes people say things to you because they want to get things out of you. Infants don't know that people sometimes don't have good intentions. Their brain has not developed enough to be able to understand human behavior from an adult perspective. So Aries as a zodiac sign tends to be quite gullible with trusting people, especially when they're in love. When they're in love, they stop checking to make sure that the person that they're in love with is still treating them according to whatever the mutual agreement is. Remember, love is not sentimental. Love is a divine contract. Love is a contract. Love is an agreement. Okay? Libra rules relationship because Libra rules contracts. That's why Libra also rules work relationships, meaning business contracts. Libra rules marriage contracts. Love is a contract. It's an agreement. It's not woo-woo. It's not, oh my God, I love your beautiful eyes. Like, all of that is great, but when you, underneath all of that is an agreement, whether spoken or unspoken. Love is a contractual agreement between two people. And for those of you who don't believe me, ask anybody who's been divorced what the process looks like when they fall out of love with somebody. There's a contract there that needs to be severed when you get divorced, and there's a contract that needs to be honored when you get married, because love is a contract. Love is not about your feelings. Love is not about what you think. It's an agreement. So if you and that person have agreed that this is how the relationship works, that's how it should work. When Aries Venus gets into a contractual love agreement with people, they tend to dive in head first, not read the fine prints, trust the vibe, trust what they feel right now, and then they assume, just like an infant, that because the love is good now, it's always going to be good. And they don't put a lot of parameters around themselves to protect themselves in the event that the love changes. Because Aries is not able to anticipate that 5 years, 10 years from now, I may feel differently. Capricorn can, Aries can't. Because to Aries, love is all consuming. It's about the fire. It's about the passion. It's about the excitement. And that's all they're focused on, what they're going through right now. Pearl Bailey said, very hard divorce process. Yes, because love is a contract. Marriage is a contract. Having children with somebody, living as a married couple, that is a contract, okay? So it's important that both parties uphold that contract, because when people start not showing up in the way that they used to, or not showing up in the way that the other person expects them to, or not showing up in the way that is agreed upon, it becomes problematic for the system, especially for Aries, again, who has no foresight and who has not even imagined the possibility of a future when that love doesn't show up in the way that it showed up in the beginning. It can be very jarring for Aries to recognize or to have to face the fact that the passion is not there anymore. The fun is not there anymore. The excitement is not there anymore. When the initial passion and then the initial charm and then the initial concept of how that love was showing up in its full beauty, its full sensuality, its full magnetism, whenever that goes down, they're going to have to work by establishing a structure around being intentional with giving each other that energy. Okay? And, Neptune is a planet of illusion. It's a planet of dreams. It's a planet of deception and lies. A lot of times, too, Pisces, has an aversion to living in reality. So when the relationship is not going well, Pisces can be self-deluded about how it's going. Pisces can subconsciously lie to themselves about the fact that the relationship isn't going well. Pisces have a hard time accepting the reality of relationships in general. Remember, Venus is exalted at Pisces, okay? So because of that, Pisces puts a lot of energy on love. And when the love that they had in the beginning starts to change from being magical, which is really the only way they can experience love, which is, otherworldly, they don't want to experience love in a normal sense, like in a day-to-day pragmatic sense. They want to experience it in a spiritual sense, in a magical sense. So whenever that love stops to feel magical, Pisces won't confront that. They won't face that. They won't talk about that. They won't deal with that. What they're going to do is run away to their magical land to avoid this emotion of grief associated with the original, love at first sight emotion, running out. So she has a lot of idealism around love. She has a lot of impatience around love. She has a lot of drive to make that love be something very fast. But this Neptune and Capricorn placement is going to require that she be willing to be emotionally mature and really examine the ways in which the fantasies of love are not living up to her reality. That's step one, and it's painful. Anybody that's been in a long-term relationship knows what I'm talking about. It's painful. It's painful to know that the butterfly feeling that you had in the beginning, that you're not going to have that every day anymore if you want to keep this relationship. It's going to change. And that's where the maturity comes in, where you now choose, because now it becomes a choice. You choose to create an environment where you and this person can be intentional about recreating scenarios that may bring those feelings back. And that's the work part of the relationship. And because Neptune is in Capricorn, there is a Saturn influence here, and Saturn requires work. Saturn requires dedication. Saturn requires structure. So they're going to have to be intentional about creating date night, intentional about, taking the kids to the grandmother so that they can do things just the two of them, intentional about traveling together and doing fun things so that they can keep the love alive, keep the love fresh. But Pisces, when they're in their delusional low vibrational state, they assume that it should just happen. And what's worse is that when it doesn't just happen, which, scientifically we know it can't just happen when you've been with the same person for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. That's what science tells us. But Pisces doesn't like living in the real world. They prefer their fantasy world. They prefer their magical world. They don't want love to feel real. They want love to feel otherworldly. So the worst thing a Pisces can do when it doesn't happen is assume that the relationship is broken. Because that's usually step 2 for them. When it doesn't happen, they assume the relationship is broken, that it's damaged, and it can't be fixed because the magic is gone. So Pisces has an aversion to dealing with love in the realistic, practical sense. They want love, but they want it to be a fantasy. And in the real marriage, where you have children, every moment cannot be a fantasy. There will be poopy diapers. There will be kids getting sick. There will be temper tantrums. There will be fights. There will be emotional and physical exhaustion. There will be lack of energy for sexual activity. There will be lack of intimacy at times. There will be a lack of closeness at times. Because when you start having children, and the more of them you have, the more your emotional energy gets poured in other directions because they need you. They need you for survival. Whatever you give to your spouse is what's left after you've taken care of your children. After you've taken care of your children, whatever love is left, that's what your spouse gets. When you're in a relationship with somebody who puts love on the pedestal and doesn't really want to deal with love in the real sense, they may expect you to still have the energy that you had when it was just the two of them and you were dating. But that's not realistic because you spend your entire day running after 3 people that are all under the age of 5. And you love them very deeply. So when you're interacting with them, it's not like work where your feelings aren't involved and you're just checking boxes and getting things done. You're devoted. You're invested. Your heart is in it. You want them to be well. When they're crying, your heart gets squeezed. When they're sick, your heart gets squeezed. You're literally going through this process emotionally of continuously writing the highs and the lows of the day through your children. And when you've got 3 with 3 different personalities and moods, it's a lot to do in a day. So when it comes time for bed, you may not be in the mood. Not because you don't love him anymore, or not because the love is gone, but because you're tired. Because you're tired. And that's the reality. That's the Saturnian, Capricorn reality. This is why Capricorn rules the bones and the skin, because ultimately it all comes down to the facts. The facts are that you are exhausted. Does that mean the love doesn't exist anymore? No. Does that mean that you fell out of love with each other? No. Does that mean that you can't repair whatever needs healing? No. All relationships ebb and flow. In the beginning, yeah, they were probably having a lot of physical chemistry, a lot of physical attraction, a lot of fun. I'm sure the idealization of the relationship is changing. It's shifting. And that's what life is about. It's about change. So let it change. But don't put a bad label on it because it's different. That's the thing with Aries. Aries is so impulsive that when they don't get what they want right away, they assume they're never going to get it. No, you may just have 5 years that are rough because you have 3 children all under the age of 5. Ask anybody who has raised 3 children, all under the age of 5, how it was in the beginning. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. And yes, you could argue that she's rich, she can afford nannies and all this and that, but we don't know that she has nannies. We don't know. She may not want nannies. Some celebrities don't want nannies. I know Cardi B is one of those. She's very adamant about not wanting nannies. So if you also want to be the primary caretaker of your children, and you have 3 of them, and you're also running a multi-million-dollar business, it's a lot. So I hope she's being patient with herself, giving herself some grace. And that's the thing about parenting. Parenting will teach you that grace is important, because some days you're just going to screw the whole thing up. Some days are just not good days. Some moments are just not your best moments. You just keep waking up and keep trying to do better than you did the day before. Remember, there's no manual, there's no handbook, there's no exam, there's no way to really tell how you're doing until your children become adults. That's the true test. But while you're in it, there's no way to know. You're just trying your best. So give yourself some grace. You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.